Hey guys, hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. As you might imagine, I am not the easiest person to buy a gift for. So, I like to get cash. Buy myself a little something. This year I got a pretty nice bonus from work. I could not resist the temptation to go onto eBay and poke around. And the item I just bought was total gamble, impulse, sort of, and it just arrived, so let's see. I'll tell you right off the bat, it's a scope. You might be thinking, why in the world would I need more scopes? Well, here's the thing, with most of the test equipment I have, most of what I have is not exactly what I wanted. It was either too good an opportunity to pass up on, or it was good enough. Rarely do I save up and buy what I actually want. Why not? Test equipment's expensive, and this is a hobby. It's a pretty serious hobby, obviously, but a lot of this fancy gear I've been showing you guys over the last 6 months or so, I absolutely do not need. It is not necessary for any of the stuff I do, but it's really nice to have. It's really cool to have. It's the stuff I saw when I was learning about electronics years ago. Mostly I've been buying stuff from the 80s and 90s lately, and I could never dream to afford the stuff when it came out new, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 and up. But now you can get it for a few hundred, if you're willing to take a gamble. So let's talk about scopes in particular. I have a number of scopes. None of them are exactly what I want. None of them have the mix of features I want. And that's not just me, that's true of a lot of guys, and that's why I've come to realize when I would see guys post photos of the workbench and have all this test equipment, it just seemed ridiculous when they'd have numerous scopes. Why would you need more than one? Just get one good solid one and you're done. But no, because most scopes can't do it all. Or I should say, some scopes are better at doing things than others. So for years you saw me use a Hewlett-Packard digital scope. It's what I used in college, came out in the early 90s, was one of Hewlett-Packard's first all-digital scopes. And it's fine, and I really got used to being able to just hook it up to a circuit and push auto, and it would automatically adjust the voltage and all the settings to give me usually what I wanted, and it would tell me the volts peak to peak and the frequency and all that great stuff. But as I got more and more into videos, some of you pointed out to me that, you might want to look at the specs on that scope because they're really not very good, and you are absolutely right. I thought, oh, it's a dual trace 100 megahertz scope. Yeah, sort of, kind of. Yeah, the analog front-end inputs on the scope, 100 megahertz bandwidth. The digital sampling rate of that HP scope is only 20 million samples a second, and it's only 8-bit. Meaning that it looks okay if it's a repeating, let's say it's a sine wave repeating over and over. Scopes like that with a really low sampling rate, what they do is they interpolate. They'll sample it and then shift the start time, the trigger time internally a little bit and sample some more points, and then sample some more and sample some more and build up detail. The problem is when you look at a continuously varying waveform like audio or video, it looks terrible. Then I was gifted a high-end, for the time, Tektronix analog scope. I think it was, a 454A. That was pretty beat up. But it was 150 megahertz pure analog, and video looked gorgeous on it. And I was thinking, oh, this is what they're talking about. Yeah, this is really nice. And I did work on that scope. I did fix up a bunch of stuff, but it still has a bunch of issues. And it's pretty old and crusty. That being said, it is a phenomenal scope. For a pure analog scope, it's about as good as they can get. But it does have a small screen, and as I said, there are a lot of issues with the controls that are dirty and need servicing. I got it for nothing, so I'd be more inclined, if I really wanted that scope, to save up a few $100 and buy one in better condition, or buy one that's been reconditioned. But it's still not what I really want, because I do miss having the auto ranging, the on-screen display, the frequency, the voltage display settings, and all that stuff. So I got to doing some research, and this still isn't it, but this is a lot closer to what I would really, what I call my dream scope. There's a Tektronix 2465. This was the next to last analog scope that Tektronix ever made. It came out initially, I think, in 83, 84-ish. And this was the genesis of a family of scopes. It was a 2445, which had a lower bandwidth. I think only 2 inputs, whereas this has 4. Lower end model. Still really nice. And then there were the A and the B versions that had more bandwidth, more features. And the 2467, which some consider to be the absolute ultimate scope, which has a really amazing display technology with post-acceleration that makes the brightest, crispest scope display probably ever made. But they don't age well. They get burned in, so I was scared off of getting that. There are also a lot of variations of this, or DAV, or other letters after it, built-in multimeter. And if you look close, they have different functions on some of these switches and stuff. And there are optional plugins. This does not have all those optional plugins I would like. One of those, I think it's option 3, is specifically for TVs. I just haven't seen a good one of those come up for sale at a reasonable price. That has special triggering modes for TV, where you can actually, with the on-screen display, pick what scan line of the display you want to look at. And special triggering modes for horizontal and vertical. This doesn't have that. This is the base original model. Why did I get this one instead of holding out? One, I've been looking for over a year. It's not surprising that the vast majority of these are on the West Coast and quite a few in the South, in Texas and Florida, where you have big technology centers, or did in the 80s and 90s. These don't come up for sale in the Midwest very often. And the problem with getting them from 1,000 miles away is the shipping can be $100 or more, and it's a gamble. So it's either a matter of, okay, get serious, save up a lot of money and buy one that's fully guaranteed, warranted, reconditioned and all that, pay the shipping, and it'll be over $1,000 to get what I really wanted. And then there's still a gamble because these are decades old. The seller only guarantees so much. But you also have to keep in mind, I like to tinker. I like surprises. I like to get a good deal. I like to have some fun. So what I've really been looking for is one that was either close to home or really cheap shipping that was in an unknown condition. And then we get to plug it in and see what happens. And if there's some problems, maybe we can fix it. Maybe we can't. If I can't, I buy another one and maybe between the two of them make one good one. That's why I got this. In particular, I got this because it was free shipping and it was unknown condition. Yeah, that's a gamble. So you'll see stuff on eBay that says unknown condition. So I've been pretty damn lucky with that if you've been watching my videos. So I got a Tektronix 465 scope 6 months ago or so. I got that because it was close to home. The shipping was negligible, and it was $35. And he had several of them, and they were all said to be working. So for $40, $45 or something, I got a 465 that just works. And it's a fine scope, and you've been seeing it in my videos lately. But it's actually not that much older than this, but it's a bit older than this, but it doesn't have any of the cool features this has. It's a workhorse. It's a great basic scope. I have to just say basic. It does have a lot of cool features for the time, but it's become known as sort of a baseline scope. This is a whole different animal. The 465 is pure analog. The 2465 is digital and analog. So like I say, it's complicated. It's an analog scope, but it has a microprocessor in it. It's got a bunch of digital circuitry. It has on-screen display. It has cursors. It has a bunch of nifty functions via that digital stuff. I have a project up on the workbench, so let's just stay on the floor for now. Before you just go ahead and plug anything in, you should at least examine it a little bit. So let's take a look at the back. And it reminds me, there is one other thing that it sealed the deal for me. The calibration sticker is still there. It hasn't been broken. Yeah, it could be bowl. Somebody could have just slapped a sticker on from something else. It's not a guarantee of anything, but it seemed like a good thing. You should also make sure that it's set up for your voltage in your area. These were international. It's set up for 115, so we should be fine. Uses a standard power connector like everything uses these days. Computers anyway, so that's that. So let's give her a try. I've never used this scope before. I don't know how to use this scope other than just knowing how generally a scope works. I've read up about it a lot. I think it's the second only to the 465 is a very much beloved scope. So there are plenty of articles about it. Lots of info. Most of the service tips I've seen relate to the A and B versions, not so much to the base version, but full service manual is available online. Alright, are you ready? Well, I'm sure you want me to shut up and push the button, so here we go. Well, it ain't dead. Let's turn the intensity way down. Sure doesn't look like a regular scope display though, does it? But that's alright. That's alright. I mean, yes, of course I would have preferred to just had some, doing some stuff. However, as I say, I don't know exactly how to use this scope. I'm pretty sure there's a built-in self-test. So there are adjustments here. When I adjust the readout intensity, that changes, so I'm thinking that it should be on the screen display down there. Beam find button's not doing anything. Focus is working, readout intensity is working. Trace intensity, so it's a trace intensity. Now maybe we're just not. Let's play around with the modes a little bit here. So right now no mode is selected, so let's pick some modes. So let's go into that. So it's clicking, it's doing stuff. A/B trigger mode. Oh, I see. It goes through the modes. What I'm trying to do is just put it on channel 1, auto trigger, and I'll get a probe and we can hook it up to the calibrator. I'll do that right now. Alrighty, back to the action, armed with some knowledge. 1, I printed out the initial setup and checkout instructions, 4 pages out of the tech service manual. I also did a little web searching. The EEV blog forum is a fantastic resource for troubleshooting test equipment. Somebody has literally the exact problem I have, and they posted a photo that looks almost identical to mine. Potentially, it's a problem with a hybrid integrated circuit, which there are replacements for. 1 or 2 folks have fabricated new ones, but it's not trivial to replace it. Potentially it's a problem with a high voltage supply, and it's all shrunk because the acceleration voltages are wrong on it, and it's just filling up a screen. But somebody else said it could be a problem with just the beam finder switch. And in fact, the original poster of that thread just hit this a whole bunch of times and it started working fine. So that's what we're going to do. Because I noticed the beam finder doesn't do anything. What it should do is, a lot of scopes have this, because you may have your settings adjusted so that your display is off the screen somewhere. And the beam finder will always bring something back so you can get some idea where you're at. This isn't doing anything. So one, this, but also at some point we're going to have to open this up. It could just be, no, they did warn that it's difficult to get at, but it could just be the switch is messed up. Now, the poster on that form was able to wiggle this, jiggle this, and occasionally get this to do something. Mine isn't doing anything. Which does give me some hope that that's what it is, because it is kind of working. Anyways, let's get back to that, but initially let's go with this. So I'm going to set all these controls to what they set to do, and let's see what we get on the screen. Wow, I really wish I hadn't stopped recording, because while I was setting these controls, suddenly the beam went full width. Ah, now it's gone again. And then when I tapped that beam finder, that's when it shrunk. Okay, I'm not going to keep doing that. But man, I turned my head for a second to look at the instructions and came back and it was full width. This isn't really just that stupid control. And most of the settings I had were what they say to do. Something else curious. Well, no. I do have the focus fully counterclockwise, so I suspect there is an issue with the power supply somewhere. Oh, what did I do? What did I do that made it? I was just doing this, and I was doing this. Oh, I see. If I'm interpreting this information here correctly in the timing check section, when you use the internal calibrator, it's automatically changing the frequency of this calibrator, so you always see this on the display. That's how you know it's working right. So I think we need to get an external signal generator to actually see if that time basis is actually changing when I do that. But yeah, the real issue is this. What did I do? Or what am... kind of weird seeing the phantom. These things kind of changing controls. And now I see why they use these paddle controls for some of this stuff. It's so that the internals... Ooh, did you see that? It's so that the internal can change these settings as well. It's me doing that. Whoa. Stay like this, please, stay like this. Position. That's what it's supposed to look like. No. Alright. It gives me high hopes, though. We have something flaky inside. It is working. It is... There's nothing fried, nothing drastically wrong. We have a flaky connection somewhere. Now, literally on the EV plug form, it said to do this 100 times. Except when I do it, it does nothing. So it's not giving me high hopes of me doing this 100 times is going to fix anything. Nor does me. This doesn't do anything either, so... But it didn't seem weird when I kind of waved my hand over here that it suddenly jumped. Now, it's also entirely possible this damage happened in shipping. There's always a huge... Oh yeah, so the packing... Considering it was free shipping, this was packed fairly well, and the box did not appear to have been abused much. Oh. That... Okay, so clearly it's happening spontaneously. There could be so there's probably a cold solder joint or something like that, and it just sporadically, at least that's what I'm guessing. It could have been damage at shipping is what I'm saying. So there could just be a loose connector or something inside. So it's definitely worth taking some time to poke around inside. Plus, I bet some of you are curious to see what is in a beast like this. But before we do that, this is what you all really wanted to see, is what does the on-screen display look like? There, finally. Delta T, 0.11 microsecond, 5 millivolt, 5 microsecond. That's the kind of stuff I wanted. Stay. No, there's the focus. Oh, isn't that a thing of beauty? No, this oh, that's probably one of the cursors. I'm afraid to touch anything. Yeah, there we go. Oh, beauty. So what that's showing you is the time between these two vertical lines. There's the other one. Oh, I gotta take a photo before this disappears. Alright, I managed to carve out a little room on the workbench. Let's see what we've got inside. One thing I want to do is get rid of this pouch too, because I really don't have any use for that. I'm not going to be taking this anywhere, so I generally just remove these, which I think I can do. Taking the screw out. More screws on the back. We'll see what's inside. Somebody did mention online that maybe the caps are reforming. Yeah, I expect should run it for a while. I'll even say in the service manual to run it 20 minutes before bothering checking anything. Probably some keycaps in the power supply should be replaced. Let's get some heft to it. Alrighty, so I'll just live with those holes on top, I guess. I presume we open this up from the back. Oh yeah, so I got to break that warning about the seal there. I think these are just, oh no, they're star bits. Okay. I used to work on older tech stuff. Alright. Oh, it's cracked. Wonder if that happened in shipping. Not a big deal, but it might be worth gluing. It's busted along that backside. If you go on eBay and hunt around, it basically, you can get so many of these have been parted out over the years, you get darn near any part you'd want, including even that beam finder. So push button switch. I saw there's somebody selling one of those. Right. That's what I figured. This just slides off. Typical tech scope. Oop, of course you gotta flip the handle up when you do that. Typical tech scope construction. So there's going to be a ton of shielding, but oh yeah, we're going to get to see some stuff right away. Let's hung up a little bit on something. More metal. However, if we look on the side, we get to see the digital stuff, or at least some of it. Oh wait, hey, scratch what I said. Oh yes, you get to see a whole lot of stuff. Oh yeah, look at that. Wow. I've seen photos online, but never saw one in person. Technically, yeah, you can service this, but not so much fun. So what are these? These are heat sinks. Underneath these are custom, very high-speed chips. That's what makes this high-speed scope work. Let's look for a date code. I'm seeing 84, so I'm pretty sure this is made in 84. It's the later version, so you might think that, oh, an A, a B revision, minor tweaks, but no, I think they were pretty substantial tweaks. Here's the digital. I think on later revisions, that non-volatile RAM, probably be that guy. And here it's just a good old 6116. I think that's 2K by 8, something like that. EEPROMs. Oh yeah, there's your date codes. So about mid-1984. So it's an early one, that's for sure. It's a 6808, 68A08. Not very impressive looking compared to the rest of the chips. It looks downright crummy. Poor printing. But the tech chips, the custom chips, they are quite pretty. Beam finder. Well, here's the switch, and hey, what do you know? It's right there. It's like a momentary push button switch. So, guy in the EEV blog had the same problem. He said he used some contact cleaner on it, took care of his problem. Somebody suggested reflowing the solder, but no, he just had to use contact cleaner. But how do we get contact cleaner into it? He didn't go into any detail. I'll puzzle over that. Otherwise, it's neat to see the controls from the back. So these are all little mini pots, very, very accessible. So this one's a little bit loose. This thing has seen some use, that's for sure. But so I'll clean up the front panel. Just a little alcohol. None of the knobs appear to be chipped or damaged or anything, so that's good. So would I recap this? Some of these would be a little tricky to get at. So you see the gigantic one here? I'm pretty sure it's a wet slug tantalum cap, as would be that guy. But that thing is huge. If somebody is still selling that probably is a very expensive capacitor. There's a few electrolytics on the digital board. 3. The little guy here, I mean the conventional looking ones. These guys, I'm not seeing any bulging, or I'll go around the boards and look for any signs of goo or crud coming out of them. But mostly it's the power supply that you want to be careful of. So let's flip it around and look for that. Oh yeah, I can see at least 2 reefer caps over here. Those are infamous in the early home vintage computing restorers field is a big something you have to replace because they just so often fail. We have a bunch of, I assume those are all linear pass regulators. This thing's not going to use a pushing power supply not right next to the CRT. That would produce way too much noise. You can see some more. Looks like more power supply action over there. So I'll do a quick eyeball on all this stuff, and I'll peruse the forums. There's such a wealth of info on these, but most of it seems to be dedicated to the A and the B revisions, not so much this guy. Oh man, if this is all it was, that was too easy. I put paper toweling all around that switch and shot a little bit of deoxit D5 into the open end. Before I did, it was really not making contact in either position. It's a DP-DT switch. So when it's out, the center pin and the front pin should make contact. And now they do. Push it in. No contact. Backside. No contact. Push the button in. Contact. I think it's just that easy. Of course, now let's power it up and make sure that's the case. Don't get any excess. You do not want to just spray deoxit willy-nilly into these instruments. You do not want it getting on anything. I was a little nervous about even doing that, but I think I pulled it off. I missed this when I first opened the box. So there was a power cord there. It's not the original tech though. It actually says Ching Chang on the back of it, but it should be good enough to try powering this up. Carefully do it without the cover being on. So, problem. I'll take it all back apart again. Power. Delay on. Click. It's coming up. It's coming up. It's a normal display. Beam finder. Yes. So it was stuck in this mode. That's all it was. Thank you, EEV blog forum. I mean, I kind of suspected because I was going through the controls and that button didn't do anything, but I shouldn't say never. Never say never. I didn't expect it would be such an easy fix. Awesome. Now, one thing we have to do is actually feed in a real signal. Fire up one of my RF generators in the background here, and let's put this baby through its paces. Alright, fired it back up. Have it hooked up to my HP 8657A, which goes up to 1 gigahertz. Now I'm putting out 0.2 megahertz with some AM modulation. Looks just fantastic. Go lower in frequency. There's the AM modulation. Isn't that a thing of beauty? You can vary the intensity of the readout separately from the waveform, and if you get out all the way, it just blanks it out entirely. So you can focus just on the waveforms, otherwise you can bring it up. And the one thing I don't think the scope does, I don't think you can just push a button and do auto and it'll tell you the frequency and all that stuff. I could be wrong. I know I can do delta T and delta F, but I don't know that it can automatically display this stuff. But if we wanted to see the frequency of, say, well, let's turn off AM modulation. Remember how. There we go. Let's just go to the carrier. Alright, so we want to know what that frequency is. We go to delta T, and we get our two cursors there, and we put one at one peak and one at the other. So we know that there's about 4.54 microseconds between those. I was wondering, can this do the math for you? To get the frequency, you have to invert that number. Can this do that for us? Be cool if it could. It says 1 over delta T. Looks like you have to hold down both. 220 kilohertz. Okay, that's kind of scary. Look what's on the RF generator. 220 kilohertz. Oh, I see. They don't have to hold those buttons down. It toggles that mode. Fantastic. Oh, let's do something a little bit more fun. I switched to my HP 3336A. So the size level generator that can do sweep. So, yeah, that is one very, very, very nice scope. The one thing I'm curious about is a 4-channel scope, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. We have controls for 1 and 2 with change the voltage range, right? And for channel 2, where are the controls for channels 3 and 4? That I got to read up on. So I'm wondering if there are somewhat some limitations on what these can do. Anyways, here's channel 1 and channel 2 enabled. Oh, let's see. Can't easily feed something into that channel, but if you did, you can imagine it would be superimposed. Yeah, there's all 4 channels. All there. Of course, you don't get different colors like a modern scope, but yeah. Anyway, you'll be seeing a lot more of the scope maybe sooner than later, because I'll play around with this and finish going through the calibration procedures, but it seems like if any of these might actually work a little bit better than my 465, which can sometimes be a little flaky with triggering. But yeah. Anyways, I guess I'll leave off here. If any of you have any suggestions on things I should do before putting this into service, some caps I should definitely replace, or some calibrations I should check, whatnot. Otherwise, I'll search around online. Anyways, yeah, this turned out to be very successful gamble. You've seen me do this time and time and time again. A little bit of knowledge and taking a little bit of a chance. Study the photos, buy from reputable sellers, and you get great deals. So with shipping, this was $200 basically. If I bought a brand new scope, it would cost more than $200, and it wouldn't be as nifty. Not to me, anyways. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this look at a classic Tektronix 2465 scope from 1984. Thanks for watching.